Hello everyone. So today we'll be learning about the topic fatty acid. We'll be talking about the structure and we'll also be learning about the different types of classification. So fatty acids can be classified on the basis of saturation. And so what are fatty acids? So hydrocarbon derivatives means that hydrocarbon, as the name suggests, it has a hydrogen and a carbon. So we've studied about this in chemistry. So here the functional group that is present in them is the carboxylic acid group. So fatty acids can be defined as carboxylic acids with hydrocarbon chains ranging from 4 to 36 carbon atoms. Pretty straightforward definition, learn it by heart. Okay, so in some fatty acids, the chain, as in the hydrocarbon chain, they may be unbranched and fully saturated. So saturated means that there's no double bonds present. In some of them, the chains may contain one or more double bonds. We will be talking about that later on in this video. We'll be discussing how they can be classified on the basis of saturation. And some of them may also even contain carbon rings, like let's say 3 carbon rings, or maybe hydroxyl groups, or maybe even methyl group branches. So that's basically the gist of fatty acids. I would also like to mention the general formula and general structure of fatty acids. So the general formula would be CnH2n plus 1 and COH. So let's say the carbon number is 2, so that would be C2H5COOH. This is propionic acid according to IUPAC naming. And the general structure would be RCOOH, where R is the hydrocarbon group or hydrocarbon chain. So before we get into classification, let's talk about how fatty acids can be represented. So fatty acids can be represented by numbers according to how many carbon atoms are present in them. So I'm going to take an example. Let's say a 16 carbon fatty acid with no double bond. So this can be written as 16 colon 0, where 16, as you may have understood, is a number of carbon atoms. And 0 is a number of double bonds. Another example, which would be an 18 carbon fatty acid with one double bond. This can be written as 18 colon 1. But it's not that simple. We also need to specify the location of the double bond. So an 18 carbon fatty acid with one double bond is oleic acid. The double bond present in oleic acid is between the 9th carbon and the 10th carbon. So it can be represented using a delta. Delta is for the position of the double bond. And I can also write where the double bond is present as a superscript. So delta 9, because it's between carbon 9 and carbon 10. I can also add a bracket for that. So this is the representation of oleic acid. And the previous one was a representation of palmitic acid. I will also explain how fatty acids are drawn out as structures. So I'll draw out oleic acid here. In all fatty acids, the first carbon atoms, when it comes to numbering, the first carbon atom will always be the carboxylic acid group. Because, according to the rules of IUPAC naming, the priority should always be for the functional group. The next set would be for the bond, and the next one would be for the branches, which is ethyl, methyl, propyl, anything from that. So yeah, since the priority is higher for the functional group, the carboxylic acid group would always get the first number or the lowest number. So I'm going to draw out C double bond O, OH. Next, I'm going to draw the hydrocarbon chain. So that would be, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's 18 carbon atoms. And I'm going to number everything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And there's also one more thing. There's a double bond between carbon 9 and carbon 10. So I'm going to draw that out as well. Yeah. So this is the structure for oleic acid. Similar structures can be drawn for all fatty acids if we know how to represent them by this number. I would also have an image of a table which contains some naturally occurring fatty acids. So the first one is lauric acid, which is 12:0. Next one is myristic acid. Next one is palmitic acid, stearic acid, arachidic acid, lignoceric acid, palmitoleic acid, oleic acid, linoleic acid, alpha-linoleic acid, and arachidonic acid. So as we go down, the number of double bonds increase. In linoleic acid, we've written it as 18:2. And we've also shown where the double bonds are present with the delta sign. So they've given it as delta 9:12. So there's a double bond present between the 9th carbon and the 10th carbon atom. And there's another double bond present between the 12th and the 13th. So that's what that means. Arachidonic acid has 4 double bonds at positions 5, 8, 11, and 14. So please go through this table. A lot of one-word questions may come from this. Okay, let's move on to the classification of fatty acids. So fatty acids can be classified in 2 ways. So according to their saturation and according to how essential or non-essential they are. So let's talk about saturation first. So we should all know what saturation is. When a compound is said to be saturated, the compound does not have any double bonds or triple bonds. That's what that means. Similarly, when a compound is said to be unsaturated, it may have double bonds or triple bonds. So the first one would be saturated fatty acids. Points under this would be there are no double bonds, between carbon-carbon atoms. Another point would be all carbon atoms are saturated with hydrogen. I'm not going to write that down. Next one can be linear structure. Since they don't have double bonds, they can have a straight linear structure. Due to this linear structure, they are solid at room temperature. Some sources of saturated fatty acids would be butter, ghee, animal fat, etc. An example for saturated fatty acid would would be palmitic acid, stearic acid. Arachidic acid, lauric acid. It can be anything without a double bond. So anything from the previous table that I mentioned. Okay, next one would be unsaturated fatty acids. Unsaturated fatty acids can be further divided into two, which is monounsaturated fatty acids and polyunsaturated fatty acids. So monounsaturated fatty acids, as the name suggests, it only has one double bond. Whereas for polyunsaturated fatty acids, it means that there are two or more double bonds. It's that simple. I'm not going to bore you down by writing everything down. Instead of that, I'll just tell you what it is. So, an example for monounsaturated fatty acid would be oleic acid, which is 18:1. Some of the sources that contain monounsaturated fatty acid would be olive oil, avocado, nuts, etc. On the other hand, polyunsaturated fatty acids have linoleic acid, alpha-linoleic acid, and arachidonic acid as examples. Sources for polyunsaturated fatty acids would be fish oil, flax seeds, sunflower oil, etc. There's another section that I would like to mention here, which is cis and trans configuration. Again, we've studied this before in previous classes in school. So I'm just going to take the part of the fatty acid where the double bond is present. C, H, H, C, double bond, C, H, H. So, in order for this to be a cis configuration, the hydrogen would have to be on the same side. So this is cis configuration. This is generally considered to be good fat. It's good for the body. Whereas this is considered as trans configuration. This is generally harmful for the body. This is only applicable to unsaturated fatty acids because it needs a double bond to form this configuration. Okay, so the next classification is based on essentiality. So I'm going to write that down. So the first one would be essential fatty acids. So as the name suggests, essential, anything essential to our body would mean that our body does not synthesize it. It has to be obtained through food. That's what that means. So essential fatty acids, I'm going to write EFA for short, cannot be synthesized. Must be obtained from diet. Some of the types include linoleic acid, another one is alpha-linoleic acid. There are more examples, I'm just sticking to these two. Let's also talk about the functions of this. So functions include maintain cell membrane integrity, important for brain development, inflammation control, etc. Yeah. The second one is non-essential fatty acid. As the name suggests, these are fatty acids that can be synthesized by the body from other molecules. These are important, but they don't exactly need to be obtained through the diet because our body can synthesize them on their own. Examples for this include palmitic acid and oleic acid. They are mostly found in animal and plant fats. So I'll write that down. Synthesized by our body. May or may not be obtained through diet. Examples include palmitic acid and oleic acid. Mostly found in plant and animal fat. So that was all for today's video. It was a very short video. It was just fatty acids, its structure, and classification of them. So let's do a quick recap. So fatty acids are carboxylic acids with hydrocarbon chains ranging from 4 to 36 carbon atoms. They may be unbranched and fully saturated, or they may be unsaturated. They may even have 3 carbon rings or methyl branches, etc. Then we talked about representation of fatty acids. They can be represented using numbers. So for example, palmitic acid can be represented as 16:0, which means that it is a 16 carbon fatty acid with no double bonds. On the other hand, oleic acid can be represented as 18:1, which means that it is an 18 carbon fatty acid with one double bond. We also have to mention the position of the double bond, so it would be 18:1 delta 9, which means that there is a double bond between carbon 9 and carbon 10. This is the structure of oleic acid. Moving on to classification, we can classify fatty acids using 2 parameters, which would be saturation and essentiality. So based on saturation, it can be saturated. It can be classified as saturated fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. So saturated fatty acids, as the name suggests, they don't have any double bonds. They have a linear structure. Due to the linear structure, they are solid at room temperature. Sources include butter, ghee, animal fat, etc. Examples are palmitic acid and stearic acid. Second one, unsaturated fatty acids. Unsaturated fatty acids can be further divided into 2, which is monounsaturated fatty acids and polyunsaturated fatty acids. Monounsaturated fatty acids, the definition is in the name itself. Monounsaturated, which means that there is one single double bond. An example for it would be oleic acid. Sources of oleic acid are olive oil, avocado, nuts, etc. Polyunsaturated fatty acids, as the name suggests, polyunsaturated, which means that there are 2 or more double bonds. An example for this would be linoleic acid or arachidonic acid. Sources of it are flax seeds, fish oil, sunflower oil, etc. I also mentioned cis and trans configuration. So this only applies to unsaturated fatty acids. In cis configuration, the hydrogen is present on the same side. This is generally considered as good fat or good fatty acids. On the other hand, in trans configuration, the hydrogen is on the opposite sides. This is generally considered as bad fatty acids or bad fat. Last one was classification based on essentiality. Essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are fatty acids that are not synthesized in the body. They need to be obtained through diet. Some examples include linoleic acid and alpha-linoleic acid. Some functions of essential fatty acids include maintain cell membrane integrity and important for brain development, inflammation control, etc. Non-essential fatty acids are fatty acids that are synthesized by the body from other molecules. They may or may not be obtained through diet, even though they are important. Examples include palmitic acid and oleic acid. They are found in plant and animal fat. So this was a very easy topic. This is a very short topic. I hope you all understood everything that I taught in this video. Please let me know if you have any doubts. Like the video, subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.